Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome back to r/Entitled People, where you'll hear stories of people who believe that the world revolves around them and nobody else matters. Guys, in this episode, you're going to hear 4 stories. The first, a lady tries to steal a baby. Guys, she tries to steal a baby because she believes that OP is too young to have children. The second story is an entitled woman who needs complete silence all the time from everyone when she lives in an apartment. The third story is a nice and short one, where apparently, since you're family, it's your obligation to take care of your niece and nephew at any given time. And we'll finish up with an entitled aunt who believes that her child deserves all the presents, even though one present wasn't meant for her daughter. I hope you guys stay for the stories today. And remember, if you start to feel angry, just do like I do. Breathe slowly. Guys, let's get into it. This first story is titled, Boomer Tries to Steal My Baby. I'm a 20-year-old female with a 3-month-old son. So we took our son to the park for the first time. They have swings for good little babies, so we had him in there. He absolutely loved it, by the way. There was an older lady there with 3 kids. I'm assuming her grandchildren because they were pretty young and she seemed my grandma's age. She was eyeing us up since the moment we got there. My fiance's a smoker, and he's not allowed anywhere near the baby while smoking, so he went to the baseball fields to sit and smoke. This is a decent ways away, and no smoke made it to us at all. Even though this is a very, very small town, I didn't know the woman as we didn't live in the town that we're currently at. After my fiance had went to the ballpark, this lady approached me and began talking to me. She asked me how I like babysitting. I laughed and told her I wasn't babysitting, I'm parenting, and that this was my son. And this set her off. She grabbed a hold of my wrist and told me, don't lie to her, that I'm too young for this to be my son, and that she doesn't believe me. She told me if I didn't produce valid forms of identification for both of us, she would call the police and accuse me of kidnapping. So here's the issue with that. I don't carry my wallet on me that often, and the only forms of identification I have for my son is his insurance card, as his birth certificate and social security card haven't come in yet due to everything being bogged down from the virus. I told the lady that, and she stated that's all a lie because they give you documentation at the hospital, which they don't. It was escalated to the point where she shoves me down and tries to grab my son, stating that she'll be keeping a hold of him until the cops arrived. I quickly got up and grabbed my son from her. I didn't punch her, but I sort of did palm her nose, which I guess I did harder than I meant to, and she started bleeding. The entitled boomer yelled at me that she was gonna press charges for assault, and how dare I punch her in the face. My fiance was making his way back during this time and caught the tail end of the confrontation. Skipping ahead to when the cops show, they're talking to each of us, but the old lady won't stop screeching, so they take her farther away to talk. I'm in complete fight mode and terrified. I'm frantically explaining that I don't have ID, but this is my son, and we just came to the park to play. If there was any way I could prove that I was the mother of my son, I showed him a photo of him getting pulled from me and him on my chest a few hours later. Obviously he looks different now, but you can tell it's the same baby. We were allowed to go home and were told that we would be hearing from someone about assault and charges against the woman. Update. We set up an appointment with a lawyer for this Monday, and we'll be going to the police station later today. We called ahead and made an appointment for 3, and it's noon currently. Someone had mentioned seeing if the park had cameras. I was pretty sure they didn't, as it's a very small area, but I called anyways, and it turns out they did. They agreed to send a copy of the footage to me. I'd also like to add that I didn't expect this to blow up so much, and would like to thank everyone for their kind words and support. Update number 2. We went to a lawyer on Monday who instructed us not to really talk about the case going forward, but there will be charges pressed against the woman and possibly against the police involved, as what they did during the situation was apparently very illegal. Hopefully this will move quickly and I can have an update soon. If not, I'll try to remember to update when everything's done. Guys, what a crazy old lady. What kind of logic is that? Oh, you don't have identification? That must not be your baby. You must give him to me because I apparently am older and will take care of him until police come. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? She deserved more than a palm to the nose. I know that a lot of mama bears out there listening right now that would have done way more than that if some stranger tried to grab their 3-month-old child. I can tell you that. This story is titled, EM Demands Absolute Silence in an Apartment Complex. So, I live with my parents and brothers in an apartment complex with 11 other units. There would be noise that would go around, but all neighbors don't take much notice, or mind it very much, since, after all, it's an apartment complex with families living their lives. So about 3 years ago, a 78-year-old woman complained to us, accusing us of slamming our door, to which I can assure you we weren't, since our door has a dampener. This went on for a few months, until she wrote in chalk, Unit X, stop slamming your door. We tried to complain about it to the body corporate, but since she was a part of it, nothing was done. She consistently complained about the noises of a mother and son talking in normal speaking voices while walking out of the building, as well as complaining about our door and another family living upstairs who were raising a baby. A bit of a side note here. She tried to say, we are old people, we don't want noise. But yet, you decided to move near a busy road and a railway corridor. So how can you expect no noise? Or better yet, blame us for it? One day after returning from school, I decided to go do some chores and take out the trash. And upon re-entering the building, she wrote in chalk on the wall, again, accusing me of slamming the door and giving a specific timestamp to when I came home from school. Again, we tried to report her, but she pulled strings to have it dismissed. After accusing a number of families and parents with children living in the same complex for noise, all of the families have taken it upon themselves to make plenty of noise. A dad and his children love screaming into the corridor where she lives and playing Ding Dong Ditch before running back to their apartments with the direction of their dad. A mother and daughter cough loudly when walking past her door every time. And my family, we make sure to slam the door hard and loud and speak loudly when we enter the building. If she wants to complain about noise, we'll give her noise. She began to harass and single out the mother and daughter, to which they responded, there are families living here. If you don't want noise, why don't you move into a nursing home? I know quite a few. That's a great response. Move into a nursing home. Guys, if I was living there, I'd totally take up drumming as a hobby. Maybe tap dancing or even opera. Who knows? OP's right though. How can you live in an apartment complex with 11 other families and demand that they all cater to you because you want it quiet all the time? It's much simpler to just remove the one person complaining than to fix 11 other loud families. This story is titled, Do Not Make Me Babysit Your Baby, or I Will Indefinitely Remove You from My Life. So my brother and his psycho wife asked me the other day to babysit their children, and I said no. I work a 9-to-5 job and do extracurricular stuff afterwards that's more important. To which his psycho wife said, you're going to babysit your nephew and nieces because we're on our way to your place right now, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Which I then replied, go ahead and try. And I promptly got into my car and left my place of residence and did not come back until later. The next morning, my neighbor next door said that a woman was at my door with her baby and 2 girls for an hour and a half, knocking on the doors and windows, just trying to get in. To which I called my brother and was absolutely livid and told him to not let his wife do that stuff. Turns out, they wanted me to watch the kids so they could go bar hopping until 2 a.m. and not have to return to their children until 10 a.m. I've told him and my family that I'm child-free, and everyone seems to leave me alone about it, except for this bitch. She's legit called me irresponsible and a man-child for not wanting to have kids when I first told my family about it. This last story is titled, My Aunt Treats Me Like I'm Not Worth a Present That Was Supposed to Be Mine. This story takes place when I was about 8 or 9 at the time. My mom, my sister, and I were visiting my aunt and my older cousin, who's older than me by about a year. This is fairly important. We were visiting for Christmas and staying there for a couple of weeks. My cousin was also celebrating her birthday a little after Christmas, so we saved some of her gifts for that party since it would be easier. After we had eaten the cupcakes and sang happy birthday, it was time for her to open her gifts, so my mom brought them out for her. She opens a gift, and it was an Equestria girl doll, since we all enjoyed that series and it was her favorite character. She opens the next, and it was the exact same doll that was meant to be given to me for Christmas, but got mixed up there somehow. My mom goes up to her and says, "Sorry honey, that one wasn't meant for you. We just put the wrong toy in your pile of presents." Older cousin gives the toy back. Aunt grabs the toy from my mom and says, "She opened the toy. It's hers now." I looked at my aunt and say, "But Mama said that one was meant for me." My mom asks for the doll back from my aunt and picks up the wrapping paper that had the label with my name on it and says, "I specifically got these matching dolls for them to match. It's not fair if older cousin gets both of them." The entitled aunt says, "Well, she should have both of them since it's her birthday. She'll just keep both in case one of them breaks or something." At this point, older cousin comes in trying to defuse things before it gets worse and says, "Mom, just let her have the doll. I don't even play with dolls unless they're here anyway." The entitled aunt is getting loud and says, "No, you're keeping the doll." Even though older cousin and I were only about a year or two apart, I was really sensitive, so this hit me pretty hard. It would have been fine otherwise, but at the time, it was one of the worst years of my life. At this point, my sister has also gotten into the conversation, and my mom and the entitled aunt are arguing. Older cousin and I just go into the other room while it plays out, trying to play with the dolls that we'd gotten together. My mom eventually wins the argument and gets the doll back, but the entitled aunt and my mom were mad at each other for the rest of the stay. Several years later, my aunt still acts like this, but a lot worse, and the last time, to the point where she attacked my sister and I. You know it's bad when your 10-year-old child has a little more sense than you. Older cousin seems like a good kid, and I wonder how the entitlement from her mom didn't rub off on her. That brings us to an end of r/Entitled People. If you missed the last episode of r/Entitled People, it's right here, and it's filled with even more entitlement, guys. So click the video if you haven't seen it. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future Entitled People stories. And I'll see you guys in the next one.